Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update video. So we do have some Netflix Avatar news. There's not too much of it. We basically just have the Sokka character kind of trailer thing that's like 18 seconds long, which I will get to, but I want to start off with the main story for this video, and that is that we now know what the next Legends RPG book from Magpie Games is going to be. It's going to be the Uncle Iroh's Adventure Guide. So let's get into the details here. We have an update on the Kickstarter, as well as a news article from Polygon discussing this. So, yes, announced the next supplement is going to be Uncle Iroh's Adventure Guide, and it will be available for pre-order on February 12th, very soon. They also talked that at the end they'll talk about the Lost Odyssey playthrough that includes some of the voice actors, but I'm not really going to focus on that here. So here is the Uncle Iroh's Adventure Guide. Ready for more adventures in the Avatarverse, our newest supplement brings you to an exciting new canonical location, 4 new playbooks, new ways to play across the eras, and 5 new adventures. So pretty cool. So here we have the adventure guide here, obviously very similar to Wan Shi Tong's adventure guide. So this time it's Uncle Iroh's adventure guide. So you can see the general format of the book is that the core of it is 5 of the adventures. In the Wan Shi Tong adventure guide, the 5 adventures were in the different eras, but they were disconnected basically. Here they're doing a thing where you can choose to do each of the 5 adventures separately, depending on what era you want to do, or they're all basically interlinked if you want to play them in a sort of cross-generational kind of way, because that's what it talks about here. So, Uncle Iroh's Adventure Guide is a thrilling collection of adventures and custom mechanics focused on Jasmine Island, the legendary home of a special type of jasmine tea beloved by Uncle Iroh. Join Uncle Iroh as he guides you through a series of exciting adventures focused on the mysterious Jasmine Island. The supplement recounts Jasmine Island's history, inhabitants, and conflicts, exploring all the island has to offer. Play the adventures that span all 5 eras independently or as an ongoing campaign featuring multiple generations of heroes across several eras. The book also features 4 new playbooks, a bunch of NPC legends including Lu Ten, Iroh's son, information on Jasmine Island, and mechanics for generational play. Jasmine Island, a new canonical location in the Avatarverse, provides a backdrop for the adventures that span all 5 eras, Kyoshi era to Korra era, alongside the other stuff. These adventures hold the truth to the events of the events of the past, inform and shape the heroes of the present, and encourages players to follow their legacy of their characters across multiple eras in the island's history. The book will actually come out in the fall of 2024, but it's going to be available for pre-order February 12th with an exclusive limited time offer at launch. Okay, so that's cool. There's going to be some sort of, I guess, pre-order kind of bonus basically here. And then they just mentioned the Lost Odyssey playthrough here. So, interesting one. So, creating interlinked basically stories where I guess they are all set on or will all relate to Jasmine Island in the Kyoshi era, the Roku era, the 100-Year War era, the Aang era, and the Korra era. There'll be mechanics about how to basically, I suppose, set it up so that like the character that you play in the Kyoshi era evolves, or like a descendant is available for you to play as in the next era. So there's actually a sense of like interlinked generational play, which is kind of an interesting idea and mechanic. 4 new playbooks, of course, character archetypes to play as. There's more on that in the Polygon article. A bunch, so they're not giving a number just yet, of NPC legends, one of which will be Lu Ten. This, to me, is probably the most interesting overall information here, in that we are going to get a legend NPC write-up for Lu Ten as a character. This will obviously mean we get information about him that is not directly related to how he died, which we know very little about overall. So that's going to be a major kind of, like a lot of information that we've never had before about Lu Ten. It just has to be. So I'm super excited to see what they say, what they reveal. Is there going to be any surprises in this? Just because we know so little about this character, even though we so readily think of Lu Ten kind of almost every time we think of Iroh. Jasmine Island sounds like a really cool idea in terms of like, if that is the visuals of the background here, what nation is it in? Like, it's obviously an island, but like, is it one of these in between the Fire Nation and the Earth Kingdom islands, or is it an island somewhere else? What nation is it from? What people live here? There's a lot of potential for just like a random island ultimately, and depending on what they do here, it could be very, very interesting overall. So we'll get into the Polygon article in just a second. The Spirit World book gets brought up here. We're still working on the Spirit World book, and we'll have more news about it in the future. So I'm guessing because it's probably a more detailed thing, maybe this can come out quicker, but we have to wait and see. The Polygon article roughly goes over the same stuff, but there is some new stuff in here as well. One of the playbooks is going to be the Bound. So that's this character here with a crucial duty, and they have to now set out on that journey to fulfill that duty. And there's a look at one of the kind of original characters they have to go in those playbooks. Otherwise, like, this is pretty similar to what is written on the Kickstarter, of course. Yeah, that's all fine. In regards to like characters here and the legends pages, we featured General Iroh in the core book, but he will be appearing in full here as Uncle Iroh in the post-war Aang era. And we're going to have full write-ups for both Princess Zaysan and her betrothed, Monk Khandro. Two characters introduced in the core book, and they're from the Roku era. They are contemporaries of Sozin. Now, this is an interesting one in that I take this to mean there will be a new Iroh, like, kind of legend NPC that will be basically Aang era Iroh, but then I'm a little bit confused about how exactly Iroh helps you with the Korra era adventure in this book, if it's all meant to be kind of interconnected in that way. Is it that they mean like Aang era, or do they mean like this Iroh will be Korra era Iroh as a spirit? But are they holding that back until the Spirit World book, and so they want to avoid dealing with spirits? So this is why Iroh only goes up to the Aang era here, even though we know otherwise. The mention of Zaysan here I think is quite interesting, because we already have her legend NPC write-up from the separate adventure that we got, that was kind of given out to everyone for free. Monk Khandro, we don't have a legend NPC write-up for, so that will be interesting. This is of course going to mean that we get images. We will get I suppose a character design for Monk Khandro, probably a new image for Zaysan. Lu Ten, obviously, I think we'll get an image as well, because I don't think they've had any legend NPC that doesn't have a big notable image of the character. So that puts it at like, what, maybe 4 legend NPCs, but we don't really know what exactly the details they're talking about here are. Does it mean that the Roku adventure that's in this book relates to Zaysan and Khandro quite specifically? That's a way to get more information on this stuff, but either way, it'll be interesting. They mention here that Lu Ten gets a page, of course. That will be quite interesting. Jasmine Island is the focus. And then one of the other playbooks is going to be The Broken, an older hero who endured a terrible tragedy in their past, but now has been called forward to heal themselves and fight for what is right. And then it does mention September specifically here, whereas it only mentions fall on the Kickstarter. So that's probably their rough estimate. They have had delays before. And then we don't really know what the situation with this book is going to be in terms of, like, is it September for when we get the digital versions, or is it September for the physical release? Like that's going to be an interesting one as well, in terms of how that all plays out. But pretty interesting, I think. I do think I would have preferred the next thing to be the Spirit World book, because that's what I was kind of really, really excited for. But this is something this year, and at the very least, the Lu Ten information sounds interesting, and Jasmine Island could be super, super interesting also. So they're my thoughts on that. But let's get into the Netflix Avatar information. So like I said, we got the Sokka kind of character trailer here. It's actually longer than the other ones. It's 18 seconds long, but there's really not that many shots in it. It's kind of disappointing, I would almost say, compared to the other ones, because it doesn't really go in detail basically on anyone. You can see here The first shot is the Mechanist talking to Sokka, because you can see the war balloon kind of here in the background. It's not always easy to find your path in life. Like, okay, I guess part of what they talk about relates to that, but it's obviously going to be in Omashu where this takes place. So interesting how the balloons might play a role in there. Is it just like they're literally rolling the attack on the Northern Air Temple into an attack on Omashu, and this is how they gain access to this technology of like air power, basically? It'll be interesting to see how that goes. But, you know, is Sokka struggling with his path in life? Is this related to the whole him being a warrior situation? Not really sure. We get a slightly different angle shot from, like, I think the first image we had of Sokka, of him obviously awaiting Zuko's attack here, protecting his home, I guess. So we'll see how that all plays out. But otherwise, like, I don't feel the character trailer necessarily presented the arc of Sokka as much as it did for the other characters, because it just kind of went with like, okay, Sokka the warrior, path in life, and they had the moment of him telling Aang that like, hey, the rest of the team is here with you as well. So we'll see how it goes. I just thought it was a little bit interesting that we had the kind of maybe weaker Sokka character trailer right after, over the last day, this information from the Entertainment Weekly article probably has been the most viral and most talked about kind of critical maybe news point about the show so far. The idea of this like sexist Sokka kind of arc being removed or diminished in the live action version, and why exactly that is the case. I think that's been a lot of the discussion since then, is more of like, okay, if you are doing this, we obviously don't know exactly what way it's going to be done in the final product because we haven't seen it yet. But you are saying this for a reason. Why? Why was this a necessary change? Because that's what Albert Kim has been talking about, that we're only making changes that are necessary. Why did they deem this as something that had to be done? When I think it's become very clear coming out of this that people really like the nuance of Sokka's arc, that he starts the show with this flaw of being a little bit sexist, and it gets resolved early on, and it's just a nice early piece of growth for the character that gives you these subtle insights into kind of his situation in the tribe, with the fact that like his mother is gone. Of course, Hakoda's been away at war for a while. There's no men left in the tribe. It's kind of just him on his own. That's why that whole line to Suki about how like, I'm the best warrior in my village is like, it's true. But it's true in that kind of sad way where it's like, but that also means you're the worst warrior in your village, and you're the warrior in your village by default, and that you feel you have to be really confident because this was what you were kind of what your kind of father told you to do when he left, was to protect the village, and he tries to do that, but he doesn't have the training and stuff like that, and so this is why he does get humbled quite heavily when he goes to Kyoshi Island. He goes to a different place for the first time and kind of sees female warriors for the first time, because in the era he grows up in, his tribe of course mainly has male warriors, because I think there's a bit of an implication that like most of the female warriors were waterbenders, because of course that's the big issue with the North, is that female waterbenders can't be trained in combat waterbending. So anyone who's a combat waterbender is going to be down south in terms of women, and they've all been, you know, taken. Most of them are probably dead at this point because of the southern raids. And it's this arc that touches on a lot of that subtle stuff in the background, while also just being this general idea of like, hey, part of how we're kind of introducing the character is that here is this flaw that he has, and he's going to get past pretty quickly. And people like that. And that's why this comment came across a little bit like weird. Like, you know, if there's an iffy thing here, it's the comment about parts of the original show being iffy. What do they see here that maybe needs to be toned down? Because it's not an extreme. Like, I really struggle to view the scenes that are being referred to here as being these extreme examples of sexism. So the fact that they kind of almost view them as being more than they actually are is a weird and unusual take for me, that they felt the need to maybe keep it here but very, very toned down, that they viewed this as, I guess, a potential point of controversy or something like that, and that's why it's maybe not here. So we'll see how it plays out, because that's, I think, all we can really say right now when we don't know the exact specifics on how it's actually going to play out. But I definitely would be a little bit critical of just like the exact words kind of said here. I'm not super harsh, just because I do think, because it comes from the actors rather than from like one of the showrunners, I wouldn't be like too critical, just because I feel like, you know, the actors are there to play their roles. Their comments about the original show and the adaptation only mean so much in the grand scheme of things, so I'm not going to linger on that really. But that said, just at that point. So, yeah, in the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on all of this news. The next Avatar Legends role-playing game book announced, Uncle Iroh, and some potential for some interesting information about Lu Ten, and some of the other eras. Jasmine Island, very interesting. Your thoughts on the little Sokka trailer here, and I guess the quite viral reaction to the whole Sokka sexism plot being removed or diminished, whatever way you want to word it, in the live action. But in the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on all of this. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.